Welcome, dear travelers of the night. I'm Phoenix, and tonight we journey into the mystical world of Celtic folklore. These ancient tales, rich with magic, bravery, and the whispers of the old world, are perfect for easing your mind and guiding you toward restful dreams. So close your eyes, let the day's worries fade, and allow these enchanting stories to carry you to a realm of wonder and peace. Shortly after the birth of Kilhuch, the son of King Calith, his mother died. Before her death, she charged the king that he should not take a wife again until he saw a briar with 2 blossoms upon her grave, and the king sent every morning to see if anything were growing thereon. After many years the briar appeared, and he took to wife the widow of King Doged. She foretold to her stepson, Kilhuch, that it was his destiny to marry a maiden named Olwen, or none other, and he, at his father's bidding, went to the court of his cousin, King Arthur, to ask as a boon the hand of the maiden. He rode upon a gray steed with shell-formed hooves, having a bridle of linked gold, and a saddle also of gold. In his hand were 2 spears of silver, well tempered, headed with steel, of an edge to wound the wind and cause blood to flow, and swifter than the fall of the dewdrop from the blade of reed grass upon the earth when the dew of June is at its heaviest. A gold-hilted sword was on his thigh, and the blade was of gold, having inlaid upon it a cross of the hue of the lightning of heaven. 2 brindled, white-breasted greyhounds, with strong collars of rubies, sported round him, and his courser cast up 4 sods, with its 4 hoofs, like 4 swallows about his head. Upon the steed was a 4-cornered cloth of purple, and an apple of gold was at each corner. Precious gold was upon the stirrups and shoes, and the blade of grass bent not beneath them. So light was the courser's tread as he went towards the gate of King Arthur's palace. Arthur received him with great ceremony and asked him to remain at the palace. But the youth replied that he came not to consume meat and drink, but to ask a boon of the king. Then said Arthur, "Since thou wilt not remain here, chieftain, thou shalt receive the boon, whatsoever thy tongue may name, as far as the wind dries, and the rain moistens, and the sun revolves, and the sea encircles, and the earth extends, save only my ships, and my mantle, my sword, my lance, my shield, my dagger, and Guinevere my wife." So Kilhuch craved of him the hand of Olwen, the daughter of Ispathaden. Pencower and also asked the favor and aid of all Arthur's court. Then said Arthur, "O chieftain, I have never heard of the maiden of whom thou speakest, nor of her kindred, but I will gladly send messengers in search of her." And the youth said, "I will willingly grant from this night to that, at the end of the year to do so." Then Arthur sent messengers to every land within his dominions to seek for the maiden. And at the end of the year, Arthur's messengers returned without having gained any knowledge or information concerning Olwen more than on the first day. Then said Kilhuch, "Everyone has received his boon, and I yet lack mine. I will depart and bear away thy honor with me." Then said Kay, "Rash chieftain, dost thou reproach Arthur? Go with us, and we will not part until thou dost either confess that the maiden exists not in the world, or until we obtain her." Thereupon Kay rose up. Kay had this peculiarity, that his breath lasted 9 nights and 9 days under water, and he could exist 9 nights and 9 days without sleep. A wound from Kay's sword no physician could heal. Very subtle was Kay. When it pleased him, he could render himself as tall as the highest tree in the forest. And he had another peculiarity. So great was the heat of his nature that when it rained hardest, whatever he carried remained dry for a handbreadth above and a handbreadth below his hand. And when his companions were coldest, it was to them as fuel with which to light their fire. And Arthur called Bedwyr, who never shrank from any enterprise upon which Kay was bound. None was equal to him in swiftness throughout this island except Arthur and Dryke Ale Kibthar. And although he was one-handed, 3 warriors could not shed blood faster than he on the field of battle. Another property he had. His lance would produce a wound equal to those of 9 opposing lances. And Arthur called to Kinthalig the guide, "Go thou upon this expedition with the chieftain." For as good a guide was he in a land which he had never seen as he was in his own. He called Gurhir Gwalstout, Ethoids, because he knew all tongues. He called Gwalchmai, the son of Glaire, because he never returned home without achieving the adventure of which he went in quest. He was the best of footmen and the best of knights. He was nephew to Arthur, the son of his sister and his cousin. And Arthur called Menw, the son of Tergweth, in order that if they went into a savage country, he might cast a charm and an illusion over them, so that none might see them whilst they could see everyone. They journeyed on till they came to a vast open plain, wherein they saw a great castle, which was the fairest in the world. But so far away was it that at night it seemed no nearer, and they scarcely reached it on the 3rd day. When they came before the castle, they beheld a vast flock of sheep, boundless and without end. They told their errand to the herdsman, who endeavored to dissuade them, since none who had come thither on that quest had returned alive. They gave to him a gold ring, which he conveyed to his wife, telling her who the visitors were. On the approach of the latter, she ran out with joy to greet them, and sought to throw her arms about their necks. But Kay, snatching a billet out of the pile, placed the log between her 2 hands, and she squeezed it so that it became a twisted coil. "O woman," said Kay, "if thou hadst squeezed me thus, none could ever again have set their affections on me. Evil love were this." They entered the house, and after meat she told them that the maiden Olwen came there every Saturday to wash. They pledged their faith that they would not harm her, and a message was sent to her. So Olwen came, clothed in a robe of flame-colored silk, and with a collar of ruddy gold, in which were emeralds and rubies, about her neck. More golden was her hair than the flower of the broom, and her skin was whiter than the foam of the wave, and fairer were her hands and her fingers than the blossoms of the wood anemone amidst the spray of the meadow fountain. Brighter were her glances than those of a falcon. Her bosom was more snowy than the breast of the white swan, her cheek redder than the reddest roses. Whoso beheld was filled with her love. 4 white trefoils sprang up wherever she trod, and therefore was she called Olwen. Then Kilhuch, sitting beside her on a bench, told her his love, and she said that he would win her as his bride if he granted whatever her father asked. Accordingly they went up to the castle and laid their request before him. "Raise up the forks beneath my 2 eyebrows, which have fallen over my eyes," said Ispathaden Pencower, that I may see the fashion of my son-in-law." They did so, and he promised them an answer on the morrow. But as they were going forth, Ysbaddaden seized one of the 3 poisoned darts that lay beside him and threw it back after them. And Bedwyr caught it and flung it back, wounding Ysbaddaden in the knee. Then said he, "Accursed, ungentle son-in-law, truly, I shall ever walk the worse for his rudeness. This poisoned iron pains me like the bite of a gadfly. Cursed be the smith who forged it, and the anvil whereon it was wrought." The knights rested in the house of Custennin the herdsman, but the next day at dawn they returned to the castle and renewed their request. Ysbaddaden said it was necessary that he should consult Olwen's 4 great-grandmothers and her 4 great-grandsires. The knights again withdrew, and as they were going he took the 2nd dart and cast it after them. But Men W caught it and flung it back, piercing Ysbaddaden's breast with it, so that it came out at the small of his back. "Accursed, ungentle son-in-law, truly," says he, "the hard iron pains me like the bite of a horse-leech. Cursed be the hearth whereon it was heated. Henceforth, whenever I go up a hill, I shall have a scant in my breath and a pain in my chest." On the 3rd day the knights returned once more to the palace, and Ysbaddaden took the 3rd dart and cast it at them. But Kilhuch caught it and threw it vigorously, and wounded him through the eyeball, so that the dart came out at the back of his head. "Accursed, ungentle son-in-law, truly. As long as I remain alive, my eyesight will be the worse. Whenever I go against the wind, my eyes will water, and peradventure my head will burn, and I shall have a giddiness every new moon. Cursed be the fire in which it was forged. Like the bite of a mad dog is the stroke of this poisoned iron." And they went to meat. Said Ysbaddaden Pencawer, "Is it thou that seekest my daughter?" "It is I," answered Kilhuch. "I must have thy pledge, that thou wilt not do towards me otherwise than is just, and when I have gotten that which I shall name, my daughter thou shalt have." "I promise thee that willingly," said Kilhuch. "Name what thou wilt." "I will do so," said he. "Throughout the world there is not a comb or scissors with which I can arrange my hair, on account of its rankness, except the comb and scissors that are between the 2 ears of Turch Truith, the son of Prince Tared. He will not give them of his own free will, and thou wilt not be able to compel him. It will be easy for me to compass this, although thou mayest think that it will not be easy. Though thou get this, there is yet that which thou wilt not get. It will not be possible to hunt Turch Truith without Drudwyn the whelp of Greed, the son of Eri, and know that throughout the world there is not a huntsman who can hunt with this dog, except Mabon the son of Modron. He was taken from his mother when 3 nights old, and it is not known where he now is, nor whether he is living or dead. It will be easy for me to compass this, although thou mayest think that it will not be easy. Though thou get this, there is yet that which thou wilt not get. Thou wilt not get Mabon, for it is not known where he is, unless thou find Adoel, his kinsman in blood, the son of Ar. For it would be useless to seek for him, he is his cousin. It will be easy for me to compass this, although thou mayest think that it will not be easy. Horses shall I have, and chivalry, and my lord and kinsman Arthur will obtain for me all these things, and I shall gain thy daughter, and thou shalt lose thy life. Go forward, and thou shalt not be chargeable for food or raiment for my daughter while thou art seeking these things. And when thou hast compassed all these marvels, thou shalt have my daughter for wife." Now, when they told Arthur how they had sped, Arthur said, "Which of these marvels will it be best for us to seek first?" "It will be best," said they, "to seek Mabon, the son of Modron, and he will not be found unless we first find Idwell, the son of Aist, his kinsman." Then Arthur rose up, and the warriors of the islands of Britain with him, to seek for Idwell. And they proceeded until they came before the castle of Glivi, where Idwell was imprisoned. Glivi stood on the summit of his castle, and said, "Arthur, what requirest thou of me, since nothing remains to me in this fortress, and I have neither joy nor pleasure in it, neither wheat nor oats?" Said Arthur, "Not to injure thee came I hither, but to seek for the prisoner that is with thee. I will give thee my prisoner, though I had not thought to give him up to anyone, and therewith shalt thou have my support and my aid." His followers then said unto Arthur, "Lord, go thou home. Thou canst not proceed with thy host in quest of such small adventures as these." Then said Arthur, "It were well for thee, Gruagach Gwalstout Etued, to go upon this quest, for thou knowest all languages, and art familiar with those of the birds and the beasts. Go, Idwell, likewise with my men in search of thy cousin. And as for you, Kay and Bedwyr, I have hope of whatever adventure ye are in quest of, that ye will achieve it. Achieve ye this adventure for me." These went forward until they came to the Ussel of Kilgree, and Gruagach adjured her for the sake of heaven, saying, "Tell me if thou knowest aught of Mabon, the son of Modron, who was taken when 3 nights old from between his mother and the wall." And the Ussel answered, "When I first came here, there was a smith's anvil in this place, and I was then a young bird, and from that time no work has been done upon it, save the pecking of my beak every evening, and now there is not so much as the size of a nut remaining thereof. Yet the vengeance of heaven be upon me, if during all that time I have ever heard of the man for whom you inquire. Nevertheless, there is a race of animals who were formed before me, and I will be your guide to them." So they proceeded to the place where was the stag of Redenvro. "Stag of Redenvro, behold, we are come to thee, an embassy from Arthur, for we have not heard of any animal older than thou. Say, knowest thou aught of Mabon?" The stag said, "When first I came hither, there was a plain all around me, without any trees save one oak sapling, which grew up to be an oak with 100 branches. And that oak has since perished, so that now nothing remains of it but the withered stump. And from that day to this I have been here, yet have I never heard of the man for whom you inquire. Nevertheless, I will be your guide to the place where there is an animal which was formed before I was." So they proceeded to the place where was the owl of Cobluim Cowlwit, to inquire of him concerning Mabon. And the owl said, "If I knew, I would tell you. When first I came hither, the wide valley you see was a wooded glen, and a race of men came and rooted it up, and there grew there a second wood, and this wood is the third. My wings, are they not withered stumps? Yet all this time, even until today, I have never heard of the man for whom you inquire. Nevertheless, I will be the guide of Arthur's embassy until you come to the place where is the oldest animal in this world, and the one who has traveled most, the eagle of Gwern Abwy. When they came to the eagle, Glaire asked it the same question, but it replied, I have been here for a great space of time, and when I first came hither, there was a rock here, from the top of which I pecked at the stars every evening, and now it is not so much as a span high. From that day to this, I have been here, and I have never heard of the man for whom you inquire, except once when I went in search of food as far as Lin Lu. And when I came there, I struck my talons into a salmon, thinking he would serve me as food for a long time. But he drew me into the deep, and I was scarcely able to escape from him. After that, I went with my whole kindred to attack him and to try to destroy him. But he sent messengers and made peace with me, and came and besought me to take 50 fish spears out of his back. Unless he knows something of him whom you seek, I cannot tell you who may. However, I will guide you to the place where he is. So they went thither, and the eagle said, Salmon of Lin Lu, I have come to thee with an embassy from Arthur, to ask thee if thou knowest aught concerning Mabon, the son of Modron, who was taken away at 3 nights old from between his mother and the wall. And the salmon answered, As much as I know I will tell thee. With every tide I go along the river upwards, until I come near to the walls of Gloucester, and there have I found such wrong as I never found elsewhere. And to the end that ye may give credence thereto, let one of you go thither upon each of my 2 shoulders. So Kay and Glaire went upon his shoulders, and they proceeded till they came to the wall of the prison, and they heard a great wailing and lamenting from the dungeon. Said Glaire, Who is it that laments in this house of stone? And the voice replied, Alas, it is Mabon, the son of Modron, who is here imprisoned. Then they returned and told Arthur, who, summoning his warriors, attacked the castle. And whilst the fight was going on, Kay and Bedwyr, mounting on the shoulders of the fish, broke into the dungeon and brought away with them Mabon, the son of Modron. Then Arthur summoned unto him all the warriors that were in the 3 islands of Britain, and in the 3 islands adjacent. And he went as far as Esgair Okerville in Ireland, where the boar Truith was with his 7 young pigs, and the dogs were let loose upon him from all sides. But he wasted the 5th part of Ireland, and then set forth through the sea to Wales. Arthur and in his hosts, and his horses, and his dogs followed hard after him. But ever and a while the boar made a stand, and many a champion of Arthur's did he slay. Throughout all Wales did Arthur follow him, and one by one the young pigs were killed. At length, when he would fain have crossed the Severn and escaped into Cornwall, Mabon the son of Modron came up with him, and Arthur fell upon him together with the champions of Britain. On the one side Mabon the son of Modron spurred his steed and snatched his razor from him, whilst Kay came up with him on the other side and took from him the scissors. But before they could obtain the comb, he had regained the ground with his feet, and from the moment that he reached the shore, neither dog nor man nor horse could overtake him until he came to Cornwall. There Arthur and his hosts followed in his track until they overtook him in Cornwall. Hard had been their trouble before, but it was child's play to what they met in seeking the comb. Win it they did, and the boar Truith they hunted into the deep sea, and it was never known whither he went. Then Kilhuch set forward, and as many as wished ill to Isbathaden, Pencower, and they took the marvels with them to his court, and Caw of North Britain came and shaved his beard, skin and flesh clean off too, the very bone from ear to ear. Art thou shaved, man? Said Kilhuch. I am shaved, answered he. Is thy daughter mine now? She is thine, but therefore needst thou not thank me, but Arthur who hath accomplished this for thee. By my free will thou shouldst never have had her, for with her I lose my life. Then Goru, the son of Custennin, seized him by the hair of his head, and dragged him after him to the keep, and cut off his head, and placed it on a stake on the citadel. Thereafter the hosts of Arthur dispersed themselves, each man to his own country. Thus did Kilhuch, son of Kelithon, win to wife Olwen, the daughter of Isbathaden Pencower. Fair, brown, and trembling. King Hugh Carucha lived in Tir Connell, and he had 3 daughters, whose names were Fair, Brown, and Trembling. Fair and Brown had new dresses, and went to church every Sunday. Trembling was kept at home to do the cooking and work. They would not let her go out of the house at all, for she was more beautiful than the other 2, and they were in dread she might marry before themselves. They carried on in this way for 7 years. At the end of 7 years, the son of the king of Emania fell in love with the eldest sister. One Sunday morning, after the other 2 had gone to church, the old henwife came into the kitchen to Trembling and said, "It's at church you ought to be this day, instead of working here at home." "How could I go?" said Trembling. "I have no clothes good enough to wear at church, and if my sisters were to see me there, they'd kill me for going out of the house." "I'll give you," said the henwife, "a finer dress than either of them has ever seen. And now tell me, what dress will you have?" "I'll have," said Trembling, "a dress as white as snow, and green shoes for my feet." Then the henwife put on the cloak of darkness, clipped a piece from the old clothes the young woman had on, and asked for the whitest robes in the world, and the most beautiful that could be found, and a pair of green shoes. That moment she had the robe and the shoes, and she brought them to Trembling, who put them on. When Trembling was dressed and ready, the henwife said, "I have a honey bird here to sit on your right shoulder, and a honey finger to put on your left. At the door stands a milk-white mare, with a golden saddle for you to sit on, and a golden bridle to hold in your hand." Trembling sat on the golden saddle, and when she was ready to start, the henwife said, "You must not go inside the door of the church, and the minute the people rise up at the end of Mass, do you make off and ride home as fast as the mare will carry you." When Trembling came to the door of the church, there was no one inside who could get a glimpse of her, but was striving to know who she was. And when they saw her hurrying away at the end of Mass, they ran out to overtake her. But no use in their running. She was away before any man could come near her. From the minute she left the church till she got home, she overtook the wind before her and outstripped the wind behind. She came down at the door, went in, and found the henwife had dinner ready. She put off the white robes and had on her old dress in a twinkling. When the 2 sisters came home, the henwife asked, "Have you any news today from the church?" "We have great news," said they. "We saw a wonderful grand lady at the church door. The like of the robes she had, we have never seen on woman before. It's little that was thought of our dresses beside what she had on, and there wasn't a man at the church, from the king to the beggar, but was trying to look at her and know who she was. The sisters would give no peace till they had 2 dresses like the robes of the strange lady, but honey birds and honey fingers were not to be found. Next Sunday, the 2 sisters went to church again and left the youngest at home to cook the dinner. After they had gone, the henwife came in and asked, "Will you go to church today?" "I would go," said Trembling, "if I could get the going." "What robe will you wear?" asked the henwife. "The finest black satin that can be found, and red shoes for my feet." "What color do you want the mare to be?" "I want her to be so black and so glossy that I can see myself in her body." The henwife put on the cloak of darkness and asked for the robes and the mare. That moment she had them. When Trembling was dressed, the henwife put the honey bird on her right shoulder and the honey finger on her left. The saddle on the mare was silver, and so was the bridle. When Trembling sat in the saddle and was going away, the henwife ordered her strictly not to go inside the door of the church, but to rush away as soon as the people rose at the end of Mass, and hurry home on the mare before any man could stop her. That Sunday, the people were more astonished than ever, and gazed at her more than the first time, and all they were thinking of was to know who she was. But they had no chance, for the moment the people rose at the end of Mass, she slipped from the church, was in the silver saddle, and home before a man could stop her or talk to her. The henwife had the dinner ready. Trembling took off her satin robe and had on her old clothes before her sisters got home. "What news have you today?" asked the henwife of the sisters when they came from the church. "Oh, we saw the grand strange lady again, and it's little that any man could think of our dresses after looking at the robes of satin that she had on, and all at church, from high to low, had their mouths open gazing at her, and no man was looking at us." The 2 sisters gave neither rest nor peace till they got dresses as nearly like the strange lady's robes as they could find. Of course they were not so good, for the like of those robes could not be found in Erin. When the 3rd Sunday came, Fair and Brown went to church, dressed in black satin. They left Trembling at home to work in the kitchen, and told her to be sure and have dinner ready when they came back. After they had gone and were out of sight, the henwife came to the kitchen and said, "Well, my dear, are you for church today?" "I would go if I had a new dress to wear." "I'll get you any dress you ask for. What dress would you like?" asked the henwife. "A dress red as a rose from the waist down, and white as snow from the waist up, a cape of green on my shoulders, and a hat on my head with a red, a white, and a green feather in it, and shoes for my feet with the toes red, the middle white, and the backs and heels green." The henwife put on the cloak of darkness, wished for all these things, and had them. When Trembling was dressed, the henwife put the honey bird on her right shoulder and the honey finger on her left, and placing the hat on her head, clipped a few hairs from one lock and a few from another with her scissors, and that moment the most beautiful golden hair was flowing down over the girl's shoulders. Then the henwife asked what kind of a mare she would ride. She said white, with blue and gold-colored diamond-shaped spots all over her body, on her back a saddle of gold, and on her head a golden bridle. The mare stood there before the door, and a bird sitting between her ears, which began to sing as soon as Trembling was in the saddle, and never stopped till she came home from the church. The fame of the beautiful strange lady had gone out through the world, and all the princes and great men that were in it came to church that Sunday, each one hoping that it was himself would have her home with him after Mass. The son of the king of Emania forgot all about the eldest sister and remained outside the church so as to catch the strange lady before she could hurry away. The church was more crowded than ever before, and there were 3 times as many outside. There was such a throng before the church that Trembling could only come inside the gate. As soon as the people were rising at the end of Mass, the lady slipped out through the gate, was in the golden saddle in an instant, and sweeping away ahead of the wind. But if she was, the Prince of Emania was at her side, and seizing her by the foot, he ran with the mare for 30 perches, and never let go of the beautiful lady, till the shoe was pulled from her foot, and he was left behind with it in his hand. She came home as fast as the mare could carry her, and was thinking all the time that the henwife would kill her for losing the shoe. Seeing her so vexed and so changed in the face, the old woman asked, "What's the trouble that's on you now?" "Oh, I've lost one of the shoes off my feet," said Trembling. "Don't mind that. Don't be vexed," said the henwife. "Maybe it's the best thing that ever happened to you." Then Trembling gave up all the things she had to the henwife, put on her old clothes, and went to work in the kitchen. When the sisters came home, the henwife asked, "Have you any news from the church?" "We have indeed," said they, "for we saw the grandest sight today. The strange lady came again, in grander array than before. On herself and the horse she rode were the finest colors of the world, and between the ears of the horse was a bird which never stopped singing from the time she came till she went away. The lady herself is the most beautiful woman ever seen by man in Erin." After Trembling had disappeared from the church, the son of the king of Emania said to the other kings' sons, "I will have that lady for my own." They all said, "You didn't win her just by taking the shoe off her foot. You'll have to win her by the point of the sword. You'll have to fight for her with us before you can call her your own." "Well," said the son of the king of Emania, "when I find the lady that shoe will fit, I'll fight for her, never fear, before I leave her to any of you." Then all the kings' sons were uneasy and anxious to know who was she that lost the shoe, and they began to travel all over Erin to know could they find her. The Prince of Emania and all the others went in a great company together and made the round of Erin. They went everywhere, north, south, east, and west. They visited every place where a woman was to be found, and left not a house in the kingdom they did not search, to know could they find the woman the shoe would fit, not caring whether she was rich or poor, of high or low degree. The Prince of Emania always kept the shoe, and when the young women saw it, they had great hopes, for it was of proper size, neither large nor small, and it would beat any man to know of what material it was made. One thought it would fit her if she cut a little from her great toe, and another, with too short a foot, put something in the tip of her stocking. But no use. They only spoiled their feet and were curing them for months afterwards. The two sisters, Fair and Brown, heard that the princes of the world were looking all over Erin for the woman that could wear the shoe, and every day they were talking of trying it on. And one day Trembling spoke up and said, "Maybe it's my foot that the shoe will fit." "Oh, the breaking of the dog's foot on you. Why say so when you were at home every Sunday?" They were that way waiting and scolding the younger sister till the princes were near the place. The day they were to come, the sisters put Trembling in a closet and locked the door on her. When the company came to the house, the Prince of Emania gave the shoe to the sisters. But though they tried and tried, it would fit neither of them. "Is there any other young woman in the house?" asked the prince. "There is," said Trembling, speaking up in the closet. "I'm here." "Oh, we have her for nothing but to put out the ashes," said the sisters. But the prince and the others wouldn't leave the house till they had seen her, so the two sisters had to open the door. When Trembling came out, the shoe was given to her, and it fitted exactly. The Prince of Emania looked at her and said, "You are the woman the shoe fits, and you are the woman I took the shoe from." Then Trembling spoke up and said, "Do you stay here till I return?" Then she went to the henwife's house. The old woman put on the cloak of darkness, got everything for her she had the first Sunday at church, and put her on the white mare in the same fashion. Then Trembling rode along the highway to the front of the house. All who saw her the first time said, "This is the lady we saw at church." Then she went away a second time, and a second time came back on the black mare in the second dress which the henwife gave her. All who saw her the second Sunday said, "That is the lady we saw at church." A third time she asked for a short absence, and soon came back on the third mare and in the third dress. All who saw her the third time said, "That is the lady we saw at church." Every man was satisfied and knew that she was the woman. Then all the princes and great men spoke up and said to the son of the king of Emania, "You'll have to fight now for her before we let her go with you." "I'm here before you, ready for combat," answered the prince. Then the son of the king of Lochlin stepped forth. The struggle began, and a terrible struggle it was. They fought for 9 hours, and then the son of the king of Lochlin stopped, gave up his claim, and left the field. Next day the son of the king of Spain fought 6 hours, and yielded his claim. On the third day the son of the king of Nearfoy fought 8 hours, and stopped. The fourth day the son of the king of Greece fought 6 hours, and stopped. On the fifth day no more strange princes wanted to fight, and all the sons of kings in Erin said they would not fight with a man of their own land, that the strangers had had their chance, and, as no others came to claim the woman, she belonged of right to the son of the king of Emania. The marriage day was fixed, and the invitations were sent out. The wedding lasted for a year and a day. When the wedding was over, the king's son brought home the bride, and when the time came, a son was born. The young woman sent for her eldest sister, Fair, to be with her and care for her. One day, when Trembling was well, and when her husband was away hunting, the two sisters went out to walk. and when they came to the seaside, the eldest pushed the youngest sister in. A great whale came and swallowed her. The eldest sister came home alone, and the husband asked, "Where is your sister?" "She has gone home to her father in Ballyshannon. Now that I am well, I don't need her." "Well," said the husband, looking at her, "I'm in dread it's my wife that has gone." "Oh no," said she, "it's my sister fair that's gone." Since the sisters were very much alike, the prince was in doubt. That night he put his sword between them and said, "If you are my wife, this sword will get warm. If not, it will stay cold." In the morning when he rose up, the sword was as cold as when he put it there. It happened when the two sisters were walking by the seashore that a little cowboy was down by the water minding cattle and saw a fair push Trembling into the sea. And next day, when the tide came in, he saw the whale swim up and throw her out on the sand. When she was on the sand, she said to the cowboy, "When you go home in the evening with the cows, tell the master that my sister fair pushed me into the sea yesterday, that a whale swallowed me and then threw me out, but will come again and swallow me with the coming of the next tide. Then he'll go out with the tide and come again with tomorrow's tide and throw me again on the strand. The whale will cast me out 3 times. I'm under the enchantment of this whale and cannot leave the beach or escape myself. Unless my husband saves me before I'm swallowed the 4th time, I shall be lost. He must come and shoot the whale with a silver bullet when he turns on the broad of his back. Under the breast fin of the whale is a reddish-brown spot. My husband must hit him in that spot, for it is the only place in which he can be killed." When the cowboy got home, the eldest sister gave him a draught of oblivion, and he did not tell. Next day he went again to the sea. The whale came and cast Trembling on shore again. She asked the boy, "Did you tell the master what I told you to tell him?" "I did not," said he. "I forgot." "How did you forget?" asked she. "The woman of the house gave me a drink that made me forget." "Well, don't forget telling him this night, and if she gives you a drink, don't take it from her." As soon as the cowboy came home, the eldest sister offered him a drink. He refused to take it till he had delivered his message and told all to the master. The 3rd day the prince went down with his gun and a silver bullet in it. He was not long down when the whale came and threw Trembling upon the beach as the 2 days before. She had no power to speak to her husband till he had killed the whale. Then the whale went out, turned over once on the broad of his back, and showed the spot for a moment only. That moment the prince fired. He had but the one chance, and a short one at that. But he took it and hit the spot, and the whale, mad with pain, made the sea all around red with blood and died. That minute Trembling was able to speak and went home with her husband, who sent word to her father what the eldest sister had done. The father came and told him any death he chose to give her to give it. The prince told the father he would leave her life and death with himself. The father had her put out then on the sea in a barrel, with provisions in it for 7 years. In time, Trembling had a second child, a daughter. The prince and Shee sent the cowboy to school and trained him up as one of their own children, and said, "If the little girl that is born to us now lives, no other man in the world will get her but him." The cowboy and the prince's daughter lived on till they were married. The mother said to her husband, "You could not have saved me from the whale, but for the little cowboy. On that account, I don't grudge him my daughter." The son of the king of Emania and Trembling had 14 children, and they lived happily till the two died of old age. The Shee and Gannon and the Gruagach Glaire. The Shee and Gannon was born in the morning, named at noon, and went in the evening to ask his daughter of the king of Erin. "I will give you my daughter in marriage," said the king of Erin. "You won't get her, though, unless you go and bring me back the tidings that I want, and tell me what it is that put a stop to the laughing of the Gruagach Glaire, who before this laughed always, and laughed so loud that the whole world heard him. There are 12 iron spikes out here in the garden behind my castle. On 11 of the spikes are the heads of kings' sons who came seeking my daughter in marriage, and all of them went away to get the knowledge I wanted. Not one was able to get it and tell me what stopped the Gruagach Glaire from laughing. I took the heads off them all when they came back without the tidings for which they went, and I'm greatly in dread that your head'll be on the 12th spike, for I'll do the same to you that I did to the 11 kings' sons, unless you tell what put a stop to the laughing of the Gruagach." The Shee and Gannon made no answer, but left the king and pushed away to know could he find why the Gruagach was silent. He took a glen at a step, a hill at a leap, and traveled all day till evening. Then he came to a house. The master of the house asked him what sort was he, and he said, "A young man looking for hire." "Well," said the master of the house, "I was going tomorrow to look for a man to mind my cows. If you'll work for me, you'll have a good place, the best food a man could have to eat in this world, and a soft bed to lie on." The Shee and Gannon took service and ate his supper. Then the master of the house said, "I am the Gruagach Glaire. Now that you are my man and have eaten your supper, you'll have a bed of silk to sleep on." Next morning after breakfast, the Gruagach said to the Shee and Gannon, "Go out now and loosen my 5 golden cows and my bull without horns, and drive them to pasture. But when you have them out on the grass, be careful you don't let them go near the land of the giant." The new cowboy drove the cattle to pasture, and when near the land of the giant, he saw it was covered with woods and surrounded by a high wall. He went up, put his back against the wall, and threw in a great stretch of it. Then he went inside and threw out another great stretch of the wall, and put the 5 golden cows and the bull without horns on the land of the giant. Then he climbed a tree, ate the sweet apples himself, and threw the sour ones down to the cattle of the Gruagach Glaire. Soon a great crashing was heard in the woods, the noise of young trees bending and old trees breaking. The cowboy looked around and saw a 5-headed giant pushing through the trees, and soon he was before him. "Poor miserable creature," said the giant, "but weren't you impudent to come to my land and trouble me in this way? You're too big for 1 bite and too small for 2. I don't know what to do but tear you to pieces." "You nasty brute," said the cowboy, coming down to him from the tree. "'Tis little I care for you." And then they went at each other. So great was the noise between them that there was nothing in the world but what was looking on and listening to the combat. They fought till late in the afternoon, when the giant was getting the upper hand, and then the cowboy thought that if the giant should kill him, his father and mother would never find him or set eyes on him again, and he would never get the daughter of the king of Erin. The heart in his body grew strong at this thought. He sprang on the giant, and with the first squeeze and thrust, he put him to his knees in the hard ground, with the second thrust to his waist, and with the third to his shoulders. "I have you at last. You're done for now," said the cowboy. Then he took out his knife, cut the 5 heads off the giant, and when he had them off, he cut out the tongues and threw the heads over the wall. Then he put the tongues in his pocket and drove home the cattle. That evening, the Gruagach couldn't find vessels enough in all his place to hold the milk of the 5 golden cows. But when the cowboy was on the way home with the cattle, the son of the king of Tisean came and took the giant's heads and claimed the princess in marriage when the Gruagach Glaire should laugh. After supper, the cowboy would give no talk to his master, but kept his mind to himself and went to the bed of silk to sleep. On the morning, the cowboy rose before his master, and the first words he said to the Gruagach were, "What keeps you from laughing, you who used to laugh so loud that the whole world heard you?" "I'm sorry," said the Gruagach, "that the daughter of the king of Erin sent you here. If you don't tell me of your own will, I'll make you tell me," said the cowboy. And he put a face on himself that was terrible to look at, and running through the house like a madman, could find nothing that would give pain enough to the Gruagach but some ropes made of untanned sheepskin hanging on the wall. He took these down, caught the Gruagach, fastened him by the 3 smalls, and tied him so that his little toes were whispering to his ears. When he was in this state, the Gruagach said, "I'll tell you what stopped my laughing if you set me free." So the cowboy unbound him. The 2 sat down together, and the Gruagach said, "I lived in this castle here with my 12 sons. We ate, drank, played cards, and enjoyed ourselves. Till one day when my sons and I were playing, a slender brown hare came rushing in, jumped onto the hearth, tossed up the ashes to the rafters, and ran away. On another day he came again, but if he did, we were ready for him, my 12 sons and myself. As soon as he tossed up the ashes and ran off, we made after him and followed him till nightfall, when he went into a glen. We saw a light before us. I ran on and came to a house with a great apartment, where there was a man named Yellowface with 12 daughters, and the hare was tied to the side of the room near the women. There was a large pot over the fire in the room, and a great stork boiling in the pot. The man of the house said to me, "There are bundles of rushes at the end of the room. Go there and sit down with your men." He went into the next room and brought out 2 pikes, one of wood, the other of iron, and asked me which of the pikes would I take. I said, "I'll take the iron one," for I thought in my heart that if an attack should come on me, I could defend myself better with the iron than the wooden pike. Yellowface gave me the iron pike, and the first chance of taking what I could out of the pot on the point of the pike. I got but a small piece of the stork, and the man of the house took all the rest on his wooden pike. We had to fast that night, and when the man and his 12 daughters ate the flesh of the stork, they hurled the bare bones in the faces of my sons and myself. We had to stop all night that way, beaten on the faces by the bones of the stork. Next morning, when we were going away, the man of the house asked me to stay a while, and going into the next room, he brought out 12 loops of iron and one of wood, and said to me, "Put the heads of your 12 sons into the iron loops, or your own head into the wooden one." And I said, "I'll put the 12 heads of my sons in the iron loops, and keep my own out of the wooden one." He put the iron loops on the necks of my 12 sons, and put the wooden one on his own neck. Then he snapped the loops, one after another, till he took the heads off my 12 sons, and threw the heads and bodies out of the house. But he did nothing to hurt his own neck. When he had killed my sons, he took hold of me, and stripped the skin and flesh from the small of my back down. And when he had done that, he took the skin of a black sheep that had been hanging on the wall for 7 years, and clapped it on my body in place of my own flesh and skin. And the sheepskin grew on me, and every year since then I shear myself, and every bit of wool I use for the stockings that I wear, I clip off my own back. When he had said this, the Gruagach showed the cowboy his back covered with thick black wool. After what he had seen and heard, the cowboy said, "I know now why you don't laugh, and small blame to you. But does that hare come here still?" "He does indeed," said the Gruagach. Both went to the table to play, and they were not long playing cards when the hare ran in, and before they could stop him, he was out again. But the cowboy made after the hare, and the Gruagach after the cowboy, and they ran as fast as ever their legs could carry them till nightfall. And when the hare was entering the castle where the 12 sons of the Gruagach were killed, the cowboy caught him by the 2 hind legs, and dashed out his brains against the wall. And the skull of the hare was knocked into the chief room of the castle, and fell at the feet of the master of the place. "Who has dared to interfere with my fighting pet?" screamed Yellowface. "I," said the cowboy, "and if your pet had had manners, he might be alive now." The cowboy and the Gruagach stood by the fire. A stork was boiling in the pot, as when the Gruagach came the first time. The master of the house went into the next room and brought out an iron and a wooden pike, and asked the cowboy which would he choose. "I'll take the wooden one," said the cowboy, "and you may keep the iron one for yourself." So he took the wooden one, and going to the pot, brought out on the pike all the stork except a small bite, and he and the Gruagach fell to eating, and they were eating the flesh of the stork all night. The cowboy and the Gruagach were at home in the place that time. In the morning, the master of the house went into the next room, took down the 12 iron loops with a wooden one, brought them out, and asked the cowboy which would he take, the 12 iron or the 1 wooden loop. "What could I do with the 12 iron ones for myself or my master? I'll take the wooden one." He put it on, and taking the 12 iron loops, put them on the necks of the 12 daughters of the house, then snapped the 12 heads off them, and turning to their father said, "I'll do the same thing to you, unless you bring the 12 sons of my master to life, and make them as well and strong as when you took their heads." The master of the house went out and brought the 12 to life again, and when the Gruagach saw all his sons alive and as well as ever, he let a laugh out of himself, and all the eastern world heard the laugh. Then the cowboy said to the Gruagach, "It's a bad thing you have done to me, for the daughter of the king of Erin will be married the day after your laugh is heard." "Oh, then we must be there in time," said the Gruagach, and they all made away from the place as fast as ever they could, the cowboy, the Gruagach, and his 12 sons. They hurried on, and when within 3 miles of the king's castle, there was such a throng of people that no one could go a step ahead. "We must clear a road through this," said the cowboy. "We must indeed," said the Gruagach, and at it they went, through the people some on one side and some on the other, and soon they had an opening for themselves to the king's castle. As they went in, the daughter of the king of Erin and the son of the king of Tisean were on their knees, just going to be married. The cowboy drew his hand on the bridegroom and gave a blow that sent him spinning till he stopped under a table at the other side of the room. "What scoundrel struck that blow?" asked the king of Erin. "It was I," said the cowboy. "What reason had you to strike the man who won my daughter?" "It was I who won your daughter, not he, and if you don't believe me, the Gruagach Glaire is here himself. He'll tell you the whole story from beginning to end, and show you the tongues of the giant." So the Gruagach came up and told the king the whole story, how the Shee and Gannon had become his cowboy, had guarded the 5 golden cows and the bull without horns, cut off the heads of the 5-headed giant, killed the wizard hare, and brought his own 12 sons to life. "And then," said the Gruagach, "he is the only man in the whole world I have ever told why I stopped laughing, and the only one who has ever seen my fleece of wool." When the king of Erin heard what the Gruagach said, and saw the tongues of the giant fitted in the head, he made the Shee and Gannon kneel down by his daughter, and they were married on the spot. Then the son of the king of Tisean was thrown into prison, and the next day they put down a great fire, and the deceiver was burned to ashes. The wedding lasted 9 days, and the last day was better than the first. Jack and his master. A poor woman had 3 sons. The eldest and second eldest were cunning, clever fellows, but they called the youngest Jack the Fool because they thought he was no better than a simpleton. The eldest got tired of staying at home and said he'd go look for service. He stayed away a whole year and then came back one day, dragging one foot after the other and a poor wizened face on him, and he as cross as 2 sticks. When he was rested and got something to eat, he told them how he got service with the gray churl of the townland of Missions, and that the agreement was whoever would first say he was sorry for his bargain should get an inch wide of the skin of his back from shoulder to hips taken off. If it was the master, he should also pay double wages. If it was the servant, he should get no wages at all. But the thief, says he, gave me so little to eat and kept me so hard at work that flesh and blood couldn't stand it. And when he asked me once, when I was in a passion, if I was sorry for my bargain, I was mad enough to say I was, and here I am disabled for life. Vexed enough were the poor mother and brothers, and the second eldest said on the spot he'd go and take service with the gray churl, and punish him by all the annoyance he'd give him till he'd make him say he was sorry for his agreement. "Oh, won't I be glad to see the skin coming off the old villain's back," said he. All they could say had no effect. He started off for the townland of Missions, and in a 12-month he was back just as miserable and helpless as his brother. All the poor mother could say didn't prevent Jack the Fool from starting to see if he was able to regulate the gray churl. He agreed with him for a year for 20 pounds, and the terms were the same. "Now, Jack," said the gray churl, "if you refuse to do anything you are able to do, you must lose a month's wages." "I'm satisfied," said Jack, "and if you stop me from doing a thing after telling me to do it, you are to give me an additional month's wages." "I am satisfied," says the master, "or if you blame me for obeying your orders, you must give the same." "I am satisfied," said the master again. The first day that Jack served, he was fed very poorly and was worked to the saddle skirts. Next day he came in just before the dinner was sent up to the parlor. They were taking the goose off the spit, but well becomes Jack, he whips a knife off the dresser and cuts off one side of the breast, one leg and thigh, and one wing, and fell to. In came the master and began to abuse him for his assurance. "Oh, you know, master, you're to feed me, and wherever the goose goes won't have to be filled again till supper. Are you sorry for our agreement?" The master was going to cry out he was, but he bethought himself in time. "Oh no, not at all," said he. "That's well," said Jack. Next day Jack was to go clamp turf on the bog. They weren't sorry to have him away from the kitchen at dinner time. He didn't find his breakfast very heavy on his stomach, so he said to the mistress, "I think, ma'am, it will be better for me to get my dinner now and not lose time coming home from the bog." "That's true, Jack," said she. So she brought out a good cake and a print of butter and a bottle of milk, thinking he'd take them away to the bog. But Jack kept his seat and never drew rein till bread, butter, and milk went down the red lane. "Now, mistress," said he, "I'll be earlier at my work tomorrow if I sleep comfortably on the sheltery side of a pile of dry peat on dry grass, and not be coming here and going back, so you may as well give me my supper and be done with the day's trouble." She gave him that thinking he'd take it to the bog, but he fell to on the spot and did not leave a scrap to tell tales on him, and the mistress was a little astonished. He called to speak to the master in the haggard, and said he, "What are servants asked to do in this country after eaten their supper? Nothing at all, but to go to bed." "Oh, very well, sir." He went up on the stable loft, stripped and lay down, and someone that saw him told the master. He came up. "Jack, you anointed scoundrel, what do you mean?" "To go to sleep, master. The mistress, God bless her, is after giving me my breakfast, dinner, and supper, and yourself told me that bed was the next thing. Do you blame me, sir?" "Yes, you rascal, I do." "Hand me out £1 13 and 4 pence, if you please, sir." "One divil and 13 imps, you tinker. What for?" "Oh, I see. You've forgot your bargain. Are you sorry for it?" "Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I'll give you the money after your nap." Next morning early, Jack asked how he'd be employed that day. "You are to be holding the plow in that fallow outside the paddock." The master went over about 9 o'clock to see what kind of a plowman was Jack, and what did he see but the little boy driving the bastes, and the sock and coulter of the plow skimming along the sod, and Jack pulling ding-dong again the horses. "What are you doing, you contrary thief?" said the master. And ain't I striving to hold this divil of a plow, as you told me? But that ouncron of a boy keeps whipping on the bastes in spite of all I say. Will you speak to him? No, but I'll speak to you. Didn't you know, you Bosthoon, that when I said holding the plow, I meant reddening the ground? Faith, and if you did, I wish you had said so. Do you blame me for what I have done? The master caught himself in time, but he was so stomached he said nothing. Go on and redden the ground now, you knave, as other plowmen do. And are you sorry for our agreement? Oh, not at all, not at all. Jack plowed away like a good workman all the rest of the day. In a day or two the master bade him go and mind the cows in a field that had half of it under young corn. Be sure, particularly, said he, to keep Brownie from the wheat. While she's out of mischief, there's no fear of the rest. About noon, he went to see how Jack was doing his duty, and what did he find but Jack asleep, with his face to the sod, Brownie grazing near a thorn tree, one end of a long rope round her horns, and the other end round the tree, and the rest of the beasts all trampling and eating the green wheat. Down came the switch on Jack. Jack, you vagabond, do you see what the cows are at? And do you blame, master? To be sure, you lazy sluggard, I do. Hand me out £1 13 and 4p, master. You said if I only kept Brownie out of mischief, the rest would do no harm. There she is, as harmless as a lamb. Are you sorry for hiring me, master? To be, that is, not at all. I'll give you your money when you go to dinner. Now understand me, don't let a cow go out of the field, nor into the wheat the rest of the day. Never fear, master, and neither did he, but the churl would rather than a great deal he had not hired him. The next day 3 heifers were missing, and the master bade Jack go in search of them. Where will I look for them? Said Jack. Oh, every place likely and unlikely for them all to be in. The churl was getting very exact in his words. When he was coming into the bawn at dinner time, what work did he find Jack at, but pulling armfuls of the thatch off the roof and peeping into the holes he was making? What are you doing there, you rascal? Sure, I'm looking for the heifers, poor things. What would bring them there? I don't think anything could bring them in it, but I looked first into the likely places, that is, the cow houses and the pastures and the fields next 'em, and now I'm looking in the unlikeliest place I can think of. Maybe it's not pleasing to you, it is. And to be sure, it isn't pleasing to me, you aggravating goose-cap. Please, sir, hand me £1 13 and 4p before you sit down to your dinner. I'm afraid it's sorrow that's on you for hiring me at all. May the div. Oh no, I'm not sorry. Will you begin, if you please, and put in the thatch again, just as if you were doing it for your mother's cabin? Oh, faith, I will, sir, with a heart and a half. And by the time the farmer came out from his dinner, Jack had the roof better than it was before, for he made the boy give him new straw. Says the master when he came out, Go, Jack, and look for the heifers, and bring them home. And where will I look for 'em? Go and search for them as if they were your own. The heifers were all in the paddock before sunset. Next morning, says the master, Jack, the path across the bog to the pasture is very bad. The sheep does be sinking in it every step. go and make the sheep's feet a good path. About an hour after he came to the edge of the bog, and what did he find Jack at but sharpening a carving knife, and the sheep standing or grazing round. "Is this the way you are mending the path, Jack?" said he. "Everything must have a beginning, master," said Jack, "and a thing well begun is half done. I am sharpening the knife, and I'll have the feet off every sheep in the flock while you'd be blessing yourself." "Feet off my sheep, you anointed rogue, and what would you be taking their feet off for?" "And sure to mend the path as you told me. Says you, Jack, make a path with the foot of the sheep." "Oh, you fool, I meant make good the path for the sheep's feet." "It's a pity you didn't say so, master. Hand me out £1 13 and 4 pence if you don't like me to finish my job." "Dave'll do you good with your £1 13 and 4 pence. It's better pray than curse, master. Maybe you're sorry for your bargain." "And to be sure I am. Not yet, anyway." The next night the master was going to a wedding, and says he to Jack before he set out, "I'll leave at midnight, and I wish you to come and be with me home, for fear I might be overtaken with the drink. If you're there before, you may throw a sheep's eye at me, and I'll be sure to see that they'll give you something for yourself." About 11 o'clock, while the master was in great spirits, he felt something clammy hit him on the cheek. It fell beside his tumbler, and when he looked at it, what was it but the eye of a sheep? Well, he couldn't imagine who threw it at him, or why it was thrown at him. After a little, he got a blow on the other cheek, and still it was by another sheep's eye. Well, he was very vexed, but he thought better to say nothing. In 2 minutes more, when he was opening his mouth to take a sup, another sheep's eye was slapped into it. He sputtered it out and cried, "Man of the house, isn't it a great shame for you to have anyone in the room that would do such a nasty thing?" "Master," says Jack, "don't blame the honest man. Sure, it's only myself that was throwing them sheep's eyes at you, to remind you I was here, and that I wanted to drink the bride and bridegroom's health. You know yourself bade me." "I know that you are a great rascal, and where did you get the eyes?" "And where would I get 'em but in the heads of your own sheep? Would you have me meddle with the bastes of any neighbor who might put me in the stone jug for it? Sorrow on me that ever I had the bad luck to meet with you." "You're all witness," said Jack, "that my master says he is sorry for having met with me. My time is up. Master, hand me over double wages, and come into the next room and lay yourself out like a man that has some decency in him, till I take a strip of skin an inch broad from your shoulder to your hip." Everyone shouted out against that, but says Jack, "You didn't hinder him when he took the same strips from the backs of my 2 brothers and sent them home in that state and penniless to their poor mother." When the company heard the rights of the business, they were only too eager to see the job done. The master bawled and roared, but there was no help at hand. He was stripped to his hips and laid on the floor in the next room, and Jack had the carving knife in his hand ready to begin. "Now, you cruel old villain," said he, giving the knife a couple of scrapes along the floor, "I'll make you an offer. Give me, along with my double wages, 200 guineas to support my poor brothers, and I'll do without the strap." "No," said he, "I'd let you skin me from head to foot first." "Here goes then," said Jack with a grin. But the first little scar he gave, Churl roared out, "Stop your hand, I'll give the money." "Now, neighbors," said Jack, "you mustn't think worse of me than I deserve. I wouldn't have the heart to take an eye out of a rat itself. I got half a dozen of them from the butcher and only used 3 of them." So all came again into the other room, and Jack was made sit down, and everybody drank his health, and he drank everybody's health at one offer. And 6 stout fellows saw himself and the master home, and waited in the parlor while he went up and brought down the 200 guineas and double wages for Jack himself. When he got home, he brought the summer along with him to the poor mother and the disabled brothers, and he was no more Jack the Fool in the people's mouths, but Skin Churl Jack,